Sorry I'm late. I went swimming in a river.
You did go swimming in a river and you were late, but it's okay because I was able to sit in the garden and catch some rays.
Catch the rays. Actually, you're looking a bit sunburnt on your head, or is that just the light?
There is a lot of forehead there, isn't there?
And now you look like a 90s boy band member with a side centre parting.
Yeah, this isn't going well. This is not a good look.
I jumped in earlier. I'm pretty sure I hit a trolley. I've got a graze on my knee. My shin, sorry. Great.
Do you actually have any trousers or shorts on there?
Yeah, I do. I generally do, yeah.
Okay, good.
I'm not half naked. I'm not that kind of guy.
This is the Sheer Isolation podcast. It's presented by Kieran Moore and Jon Ponting. Welcome, one and all, to the Sheer Isolation podcast. Thank you for joining us once again. For those who don't know, we make one of these every week. We do a video version for YouTube and we do an audio version for various radio stations and various podcasting streaming services. Main aim of this is to promote local music and the local music scene around the west of England, particularly around Wiltshire, the Cotswolds, Somerset, Bristol, that kind of area. So if any bands out there want to get in touch, if any venues want to get in touch, just feel free. Every week we always have a special guest on. This week is no exception. We have got our second part of our Jack Clothier interview this week from Alcopop Records. He was just talking far too much last week and we didn't want to cut him out because he was a really good storyteller. He told some lovely stories and we couldn't fit them all in last week. So we're doing part two of that interview this time around.
It was all gold, so it had to all go in. We couldn't edit him out.
Right, we should probably play a track.
Yes.
And we're going to play one of your favourite bands, Kieran. I'm surprised you haven't snuck one of their tracks into this podcast yet already. All Ears Avow.
Yeah.
Yes. So Swindon outfit, go on. You're brilliant at describing, and you go ahead.
So they are a four-piece from Swindon, and I've known them for a very long time. I knew them when they were a band called De la Mer, so by the sea. Mort de la Mer, so Death by the Sea.
Mort de la Mer, yeah. I've got one of their CDs somewhere.
Have you? Amazing. Yeah. I came across them. I did their sound at the Vic once, and they're just one of those bands that they came to the scene fully formed. Like, they're a new band, but they're absolutely, they know what they're doing. They've got a sound, they've got an identity, they've got a direction, and they just come fully formed. They're fronted by a woman called Claire, who is an audio engineer in Swindon. She does a lot of recordings, and I think she does all the recordings for the band as well. And if you've ever listened to if you kept track of their progression, you can hear the band get better and sound better, and that's all her work and her experience. I know she does a lot of stuff recording other bands as well. So just a sensational, I kind of think of them as slightly funky, like a funk rock band, but they've got all sorts going on. This is a brand new track, isn't it? What's it called? It is, yeah. It's called Nobody Like You. It was actually released a few weeks ago, but they've only just released the music video in the last few days. So we've been hanging fire and waiting for the video so we can include it in the YouTube. It's like a mannequin and it's like smoking and stuff. It's really, really good video.
It's a good track as well. Here it is. So that was the new video from All Ears Avow. It's called Nobody Like You. It's a cracking track, as it always is with that band. I was looking back through my old reels from when I did the late gig on Swindon 105, because I knew that we had All Ears Avow in for a live session. It was back in 2013, and I found out the original tape. Got a 2-hour radio show talking to All Ears Avow. They played some live tracks.
No way.
That's Swindon,
7 years old.
Swindon 105, they do have very small studio facilities, and at the time they just had an 8-slide mixer. And we had All Ears Avow with all of the kit. And you know Brian Keane, the legend of sound engineering. So he brought his own desk in with all the channels, rigged the band up to that, and then we just plugged his desk into the studio desk.
Genius.
The stuff we do on that show, because there's just 2 of us, and we just had a mixer desk each. We have got part 2 of our interview with Jack from Alcopop. And for those who missed it last week, you can go find us if you search for Sheer Isolation, either on podcast streamers or YouTube. You will find last week's show. Jack's
wonderful. I love him to bits. He's very energetic. He's got a lot of energy. A bit like me. We're like kindred spirits. We're the same age, as we discovered in the interview. So I just can't grow a beard as good as him.
You just can't grow a beard. That's the issue. We had this chat last week as well.
Yeah, in a week I still haven't grown one, so.
Poor you.
I'll try harder for next week.
So we're going to start off where you asked. Actually, I will cut to the bit where you asked Jack this very question, but just how Alcopop started. It's an answer you might not be expecting.
Yeah, it's not, and I encourage you all to risk your life savings in the same way that he did.
It worked for him because he's ended up with Alcopop Records.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah. Please gamble responsibly, people.
Jack, right, so I know that you started Alcopop by betting all of your life savings. This is true, isn't
it? Not quite all of my life savings, but yes, what we did was essentially it was kind of like I started it off with Kev, and obviously we had no money because we lived in Oxford together in a small house and spent all our money on vices of various, mainly going to the, I don't want to make it sound like a drug cartel. We mainly hung out at the Zodiac and spent a lot of money on booze. So we didn't have much money. So I spoke to my dad. He was like, this is a good idea. I've spoken to my accountant. He said, this is fine. So he lent me a few £100. And we were like, right, get the demo through. And I remember this really nicely, actually, because we got back from Der Festival in Belgium, Kev and I, so and a few other friends. And we drove back and we got like our first demo tape, and I was like, this is great. Not the one we signed, actually. We waited for another one to come through. But we got there and it was like, we don't actually, we saw Art Brut at that festival as well, which is nice because obviously Synergy, we went on to sign them. And I was very inspired by them. But we got home, got the demo through, and it was like, okay, we don't really have enough money to put this out. So I persuaded my dad to lend us a few £100, which we then gambled on football, which was...
like you do.
Of course, right? I tell you what, if we'd have lost that bet, I would have been saved a lot of years of hassle having to run this bloody label. But yeah, so we put it on Portsmouth to beat Charlton. And Lilmana Lualua scored the only goal of the game in about the 74th minute. And Kev and I were actually on the way down to End of the Road Festival at the time. So we were sitting in my Fiat Panda, trying desperately to get the signal to listen to the radio. And we were like, I think it's a Portsmouth goal. I think it's a Portsmouth goal. And it was like, but we could just hear it. And it was like, I think we've won. I think we've won. I think we're going to do this. Got there and found out that Portsmouth had indeed won. So yeah, it's been brilliant. So Trezor Lamana Lualua, for anyone who's into their football of about circa 14 years ago, he of the Flips, is our spiritual leader, essentially. And we have since spoken to him, put him on a T-shirt for...
You put him on a T-shirt, yes, you did.
Which was great. So we got the guys at Cheap Panini, now called No Score Draw, who, if you've never heard of them, look them up. They're amazing. They're essentially a couple who were sick of collecting football stickers because it costs so much. So they drew their own. So they literally drew every single sticker and stuck them in the Panini sticker book, and have gone on and done it for about 10 years now. It's quite amazing that
it is very cool.
Rolled on, but they're very cool, very nice people. So yeah, they drew a picture of Lamana Lualua. I popped him a message just to say, look, what we want to do, there's a football club up in Scotland called United Glasgow FC. I read about them in Mundale magazine and I was really moved by what they do. So essentially it's first and foremost a women's team, but they have like lots of other teams kind of connected to the to the organisation, where they'll go and sort of say, look, everybody who can afford it pays subs to keep the teams going, keep the pitch fees paid, all of that kind of stuff. Everyone who can't afford it, so they go out and sort of speak to refugees who have just come into the city. They speak to people who are underprivileged who can't play. And essentially, they raise money to make sure that those people can come and play football and feel part of a community, as well as the fact that everything they do is really positive. So there's no kind of slagging each other off on the field. It's all positivity. It's all, real good stuff. So yeah, we got Lamana Loire, who was originally a refugee when he came into the country, to okay us putting his face on the shirt, and then every T-shirt that was sold, all the profits went to United Glasgow FC to help a next generation of refugee football talent. So yeah, it was really lovely for us to be able to sort of come all full circle. We sent him a shirt. He sent us a picture of it. Like the fact that he has an Alcopop Lamana Loire T-shirt it just makes my life, to be honest. It was kind of like, I sort of thought, should we quit now? We've kind of done it all, right?
This is
done now. So, but yeah, so yeah, that was really great. But
that is an amazing story. That's an absolutely amazing story, and I love it to bits. I love the fact that you'd go to all that effort for something that's completely unrelated to you, so far away. That's just absolutely magnificent. But what it does it leads very nicely, because obviously that's a really bespoke thing to have created, and you do quite a lot of bespoke things with Alcopop, don't you? Because I know bought a frisbee before, which was a download, released a frisbee, and I bought the frisbee for the album or whatever. It was Johnny Foreigner, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
What other crazy stuff have you done?
Yeah, we enjoy doing this kind of stuff. It's always sort of fun to put things out that are a little bit different. So, just off the top of my head, we put out a bike compilation, which was the most expensive compilation in the UK. So it was kind of like 300 quid for the compilation, but you got a bike with it. An amazing bike as well. There were still a few of those doing the rounds in the UK, which I love. Wu-Tang Clan kind of put us off kilter a bit by releasing a bike the same week, which I literally could not believe. But
no way.
Yeah. So it was really bizarre. But yeah, so that was positive. We did we worked with QI Elves, the team who put the QI show together. So yeah, basically put their podcast out on vinyl with a little cameo from Corey Taylor from Slipknot on the B-side, which was lovely. What we try and do is just keep the creative ideas coming and sort of keep them coming around the key album cycle. So, there was probably a time, probably around the Frisbee time, when I was a little bit worried that Alcopop was kind of like, they're a novelty label. All they do is Frisbees and bikes and, that kind of thing. So what we try and make sure is that there's a beating heart of a campaign going through with all the standard releases, everything you want it to be, all of the sort of positives, that kind of stuff. But then there's interesting things kind of based around the side as well. So yeah, it's always things like that we like to do, and also try and keep things inclusive. So they may not be as exciting, but try and do samplers with pay what you want shirts at the moment, which I really enjoy doing. So it's kind of like, it's an opportunity for people who are fans of the label, or sort of just kind of into us. I guess you wouldn't have to be a fan, just kind of into what we do, to get themselves a t-shirt and just pay what they want to do. So it's sort of like, if you've got no cash, you can still get an Alcopop shirt, still get a compilation of all the latest artists. Just try and keep things inclusive, that kind of stuff.
It's lovely, and I know that is exactly how I feel about the record label, about your label. And obviously, I came to you via your releases, so I didn't know you prior to that, and it drew me in. So it does absolutely work, and it tells a wonderful.
Oh, bless you. And it attracts people like you, Kieran. So wow, obviously working.
We were just talking earlier on, actually, before you joined the conversation. We were talking about Emperor Yes, because they had Meteorite ground up into the vinyl, didn't they?
They did. That was another favourite. Partly because I love the band so much. Like, all three of those band members are absolutely wonderful. Really, really lovely people. I remember going to meet Emperor Yes for a meeting in Wetherspoons in Angel, and Ash and Adam, the drummer, turned up as you would, and Hugo, who was kind of the very handsome bass player, who was just wonderful, turned up in a full spacesuit. And I was like, hi. And he was like, oh, I thought we were all turning up kind of in character, like the Emperor Yes 5. And Ash was like, no. So Hugo just sat in Angel Wetherspoons dressed in this sort of glittering spacesuit. And I was that's
And you were sold. That's
Yeah.
it. You signed.
obviously working with this band. So that was really lovely. And so we got some meteorite, which had hit the Earth about 500 years previously, pressed it into some splatter vinyl and put that out for the sort of limited edition run of their space pop record, An Island Called Earth. And that was brilliant. I think those records are still doing numbers on Discogs, actually, because they were limited to 100. Yeah, I think they go for about 100 quid a pop. So
I have one, but I will not be selling it.
oh, good stuff. Yeah, it's a real sort of point on the journey for us, that where I kind of thought, yeah, we can just do interesting stuff. Why not do it?
Absolutely.
That brings me on to another question: is how do you keep yourself relevant as a record label? Oh, obviously you do some really crazy stuff. So you're probably the best person to answer it out of most.
Yeah. So keeping ourselves relevant is a tricky one, and it's something that I've always kind of felt okay with, is borrowing from the creativity and A&R minds of others. So
Stealing them.
Oh well, I always
Alcopop and Dreams.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Plagiarism.
Exactly. Full on plagiarism. So because I don't get to as many shows as I used to, and I still, make sure I listen to as much as I can coming in. But essentially I have two A&Rs at the label. One being my wife, who is amazing at picking up new bands. So quite a lot of the bands we've worked with, who are some of our sort of most successful bands, are people that Ria's put through. So she used to work for DIY magazine, booking shows for them, and did a lot of stuff with Doc Martens. So for instance, Nelson Can, who we work with, who have actually just split up, but have been one of our best-selling bands for years, Refound. Racket Cannon is another one who, she kind of booked there, or tried to book them in Belgium and put me onto them, and was like, this band are incredible. Home Counties, who are a band we've announced just today, who are fantastic, and I must...
Only released one song. You signed them on
right?
one song.
How on the ball are we, right? One song. So essentially, Rhea is really good for kind of picking stuff out. I've also hired now a guy called Luke, who lives up in Cardiff, who runs Stereo Brain Records, who's really great. And I met him and I was kind of like, you're just me, but 15 years ago. So I've kind of hired him on a very small monthly retainer to kind of, keep an eye on the demo pile. So he's picked some bits out that we've signed. So he was involved in Home Counties and another band we're announcing next week. Also just listen to pals and listen to bands. And it's amazing how many good recommendations come through. So I'm unashamed in the fact that I use other people to stay relevant. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, we can't all be 25 forever.
Like Joe Wiley.
Yes.
Joe Wiley stays young by sucking the energy out of all the bands that she works with.
So essentially that's what I do. Suck the energy out of others.
That's what I do.
But I do, and it's like, it's amazing because we've sort of set ourselves up as a creative label. It's amazing how many people come to us with ideas, which is wonderful, because it's sort of like, I guess not everybody has the outlet to be able to make their creativity shine, if you see what I mean. So if someone comes to us, and for example, actually, the bike compilation was a friend of mine, Liam's idea. And he just emailed us and he was like, I've been speaking to this company called Mango. I've just got this bike. You should definitely release it as a compilation. And I was like, yeah, Liam, that's genius. Do you mind if I do it? And he was like, no, do it. And it's kind of like, I love it when people come to us with ideas. I love it when I can share ideas with people. Kev and I...
I'm totally on board with that. Totally on board with that. I do that all the time. Involve as many people as possible and create that community and that sort of conversation and make it all interesting and inclusive and all the time.
It makes me feel quite positive that, we are in the really lucky, privileged position that we can kind of speak to our friends, utilize the creativity that they come up with, put a bit of a twist on it, and then make it happen, And not everything works, Plenty of our creative ideas have fallen a bit flat. But it's nice to be able to have a go. So there's a thing called FOFU, which is the fear of fucking up. And people kind of put that down, that fear of fucking up is the thing that kills creativity more than anything else. Is that kind of like, yeah, this is a great idea, but maybe I shouldn't do it because, fuck it, just do it, And it's kind of like, and luckily we have loads of creative people who are in our sort of wider family who can come to us and say, you should do this. And we're like, yes, okay. Or not, but sometimes we do, and that's where it comes from.
That was a really good, really great interview, that one.
I enjoyed that. and we will be following up with loads of his bands. I'm sure at some point he's going to come to the new venue, so you'll get to meet him in person and have a high five and a beer. So
you've been promising that to a lot of people. We're going to have a lot of high fives and a lot of beers when we're allowed to. Right. We've got another track to talk about.
So this is NervEndings from Devizes. I've noticed they were styling their name with an E, but they've seemed to have recently adopted it without the E. Possibly because there was another band called NervEndings. But this is Nerve without an E, Endings. This is a song called Muddy Puddle. They actually shot this a few months back before lockdown and released it. I think they released it late last year, actually. And they're just about to release their debut EP that's coming out the last week of... In fact, it's coming out this Friday. It's coming out in 2 days. It's released on Friday the 26th of June.
It was released in the past. Let's leave it there.
EP just released. Go check it out. Three boys from Devizes. They're all super guys. Make a super sound.
And if I'm not mistaken, they filmed that in the cellar in Devizes.
Cellar Bar, yes, they did. Yeah, and there's a lot of cool. If you're from Devizes and in the scene, there's lots of cameos in there from local people. So shout outs to all of those. In fact, actually, Rachel's in it, and Rachel who designed our intro video with the beer bottles. That was Rachel, so she's also in the video.
Yeah, nice. Cool.
Okay.
Right, now if any bands or musicians or venues or anybody wants to get in touch with us, the best way of doing that is to email us at sheerisolation@gmail.com. Just to drop us a line, say hi, drop us some YouTube links, just send us whatever you like. We'll have a watch, have a listen, and even if it doesn't make this podcast, it will go into Kieran's massive pile of CDs, and you'll probably get booked for a gig at some point in the future.
Almost certainly.
Did you never throw a CD away, do you?
Nope. Did you see that picture on Facebook recently that I shared of all the demos?
No.
So no, I don't throw anything away.
Never does. Proper music promoter. Going to hold on to it just in case. So, as we know, that the government has announced all kinds of different relaxations of social distancing. So we can go down to 1 meters. We can go to pubs shortly. We can go to hairdressers shortly. But we can't open our live venues. And as far as I'm aware, I haven't looked at the details, but pubs aren't allowed to have live singers.
Pubs aren't allowed to have live music, full stop. So that is still completely banned. Pub or in any capacity, indoor capacity, regardless of size of venue, is still limited to 30 people. So if you're a theatre and you're going to start streaming some live theatre, you start streaming it back so that your audience can watch a film effectively, you're still only allowed 30 people in the room. So that is still the upper maximum. So even with this 1 meter rule. So it was in the small print that would MVT only confirm that today, actually. Mark David put a post on the Facebook page. So regardless of your size, 30 people. So whilst it's a good thing that venues are going to start reopening, I know apparently I've seen some music venues are going to open as bars. So they're going to open their performance space as a bar so they can serve people a bit safer and all that, distancing and all that, but still no music. So, and then MVT are really not trying to encourage venues to open for music yet either, because they really want to avoid that. They want to avoid any form of risk. So yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah, we're talking about MVT, so that's the Music Venues Trust, who we've spoken about before. I saw they've been doing quite a lot of fundraising and different announcements in the last week.
Yeah, oh God, so
they're busy.
Yeah, they have been busy. So they, so Tuesday, so yesterday, they scheduled their announcement that went public. It went via The Guardian, it went via the NME, a whole bunch of other stuff. And it was called the Open Letter, so Open Letter to the Government. And what they got, they contacted all 800 independent venues that were on their part of the community. That's not all the venues in the UK, that's just the ones that have signed up with them. And they asked the venues to share it across their socials, which all the venues did. And it had a huge impact. I believe I've seen a stat somewhere that says they reached 10 million people. So that's colossal. That's one in, that's what's that, every...
It's about 1 in 7.
Yeah, 1 in 7, there you go. Yeah, so huge amount of people it reached. In order for the venues to survive until October, when in theory we can start reopening properly, we need this much money, and that basically pays for the venues to be safe. So it's an open letter, it's gone out, it's really positive because it's fundamentally, it's a one-off payment. The venues are not looking for government support beyond that. The one-off payment makes them safe. And in theory, if that happens, which I hope it does, the whole sector can rest and be happy and relax. No one's going to lose any jobs. And when the October or November comes and we're allowed to start reopening in a more formal way, we will have venues to go back to.
We've got ourselves a lovely podcast here. Thank you for joining me, Kieran. Thank you for listening and watching, everybody.
Always a pleasure, never a chore.
We will be back same time next week. You go off and enjoy your Netflix.
Hopefully the chill. See you later.
We'll leave it at that. See you later. Bye.